Oh, I see what you're saying. Actually, you have up to $100,000 on the HELOC before you start getting into a problem as far as tied to the personal residence, as far as deductibility and as far as the cancellation of debt issue. So over $100,000, then you start getting into it's not tied to the personal residence, and you can spend it on anything under the $100,000, and it's still considered part of the home equity loan.
So that answers my questions regarding the home equity line loan. When if you walk away from your house and let that go into default and your foreclosure, and some people have money and they're just taking the opportunity, like Kurt said last week, strategic default. What kind of tax implications are you dealing with then?
Well, that could be, again, another cancellation of debt issue if they cancel the debt. Otherwise it's going to follow you around and you might have to bankrupt it.
And that's a very good point, if they cancel the debt. If you're dealing with a short sale, it's really, really important for you to
forgiveness in that letter. And please read the small print. That's why it's so important that you use a good realtor. I'm not saying anything bad about the other realtors that are part-time at the Photo Mart, so no more angry emails. However, I am saying make sure you use somebody who understands this. We'll get a letter from somebody that says, I sold my house on a short sale 2 years ago. I'm now living in Alaska, and I just got this letter from some collection agency telling me that they're pursuing my second. I thought that was all wiped out. Well, who helped you with your short sale? Oh, so-and-so, they're out of the business now. The fact of the matter is, in the fine print, it'll tell you there whether or not they're forgiving that debt. If they don't forgive that debt, what are they going to do?
Well, again, they would pursue to try to collect it, and again, bankruptcy might be your avenue there. And typically, you're going to get a 1099 that's going to show that there's a cancellation of debt issue after the year that they cancel the debt. When you go to prepare your taxes on the next and into the next year for the prior year.
So generally speaking, what we're talking about here is even on a strategic default, unless you have a great deal of assets and are making a great deal of money, and it depends. We can only speak in generalities here,
right.
And there's always going to be, especially with our beautiful tax code, there's always going to be different reasons and exceptions.
That's why the standard answer is it depends. You got to look at each individual situation and look at the whole package to make decisions, because if you're indigent, you're going to fall into that category where the cancellation of debt is not going to hurt you. You've got a mansion up on the hill with $500,000 in equity, you might have a problem. So it just depends.
Well, you need a good tax consultant as well. You need somebody to help you when you're starting out, to answer the questions regarding the tax implications. So you really do need somebody who does strategies and helps you with your
absolutely. I don't try to beat my own drum on this one, but just for common sense, if you got anything more than a W-2, in my opinion, if you are doing it yourself without specific training, you're shooting yourself in the foot almost every time, because you can't know it all, and there's continual education that has to be kept up on. And that's the biggest mistake I see people make. It's like being a mechanic back in the 50s on a Chevy and then trying to work on your brand new BMW that has 13 onboard computers. If you're not specifically trained now, and the tax code has gotten more and more complicated, you don't know all of the things that are possible that you can do in your specific situation. So I just think it's kind of dumb to try to do it yourself.
Right. Now, and I want the listeners to understand, as I struggle there to start talking, the reality of it is, if you're making less than $50,000 a year and you don't own your house, you may be fine going to a Ronnie Deutsch Tax Center.
Sure.
However, if you are in business, or if you are in one of these situations where you're going through a short sale or a foreclosure, it's probably worth it to talk to somebody who knows a little bit more than the person who's taken the 2 tax classes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not ripping there. Ronnie Deutsch is one of our clients. We actually have Ronnie Deutsch tax franchises that are available to people. However, this is a different degree of in a specialty. And so what we're saying, again, like we say with realtors, make sure you're going to a good realtor. Make sure you're going to a good tax consultant. That Larry Dahl over at D.H. Scott's a friend of mine. He does a great job. He understands it. Mark, obviously, you know what you're talking about on taxes. So for our local residents, if you're in this situation, this is something that could be a substantial amount of money.
Sure, and even if you just go around and get a few opinions, just like you would to a doctor if you had something that you were, had a problem with, you've got to get some different ideas on, and then, personally I try to pick the most aggressive guy I could find, because I believe that avoidance of tax is a duty, but, that's an individual choice. But again, you need to get more information probably than what you're capable of ascertaining yourself without, taking, 20 years of tax classes.
Correct. And that's what we pay. That's the way our economy works. We pay people that are able to help us with things that we can't all be great at everything.
Everything's becoming specialized.
Absolutely.
And if you're not, you can't know everything, so you have to have enough common sense to hire the people that are going to do the great job for you.
That's right. That's exactly right. What do they say? Jack of all trades, master of none. You want to deal with the master on this. So we need to take another break. We'll be back with one final segment. It's your last chance to get a call in, 605-4567. You can email Mark questions all week long at Kent. Is there a dot after that?
Yeah, kentmark@msn.com.
No dot after the Kent, just
No,
Kent Mark.
just Kent Mark, all put together, msn.com. And just be advised that it might take me a week or so to get back to you. We are in the middle of we're deep in the heart of taxes right now.
Absolutely. We'll be back right after this break.
If there are any tax implications from walking away, typically, if that's the only asset you have, you're probably just fine. But you want to run the numbers, and for example, if it's a investment or a business property, you could actually have a loss. So it's a good idea before you do anything to sit down with somebody who's in the know and run the numbers.
Hey, Mark, if I come to you and I tell you I've got a nice home, but it paid in 2006, 2007 for the home. I've got a couple nice cars. I am thinking about walking away from my house. What kind of things would you tell me off the bat?
Well,
I mean, could I put money certain places that would help me get out of this mess, or?
Sure. I mean, again, you'd have to look at the several different ways to maybe avoid this thing becoming a tax event. How much money do you have? How much is the property worth? What's the fair market value? How much do you owe? And you've got to kind of look at the full package to see, okay, is there a problem here or not? And typically in the scenario you're telling me, there's probably not a problem.
I don't want to get rid of my
Or
car.
whether they want to stay in their house and those different things. And one thing we've told everybody, and it's the mantra, do not move out. Stay in your house, do not move out. I just met with somebody yesterday, going to give them a couple $1,000s to move out of their house. They've lost it in foreclosure. That's the one bright lining. But it sounds to me like what we discussed today, there's always going to be exceptions. However, get good help, talk to people who understand tax laws. But it doesn't sound like the tax issues are going to be that much of an equation, depending on your scenario, when you go to short sale or lose your house in foreclosure. If they lose it in foreclosure, are there any implications there?
It's all basically treated the same as a sale of property, or a disposition of the property. And so again, it's about when you bought it, how much did you pay for it, what was it sold for, what's the fair market value, and how much you owe. And you got to pretty much run those scenarios by on every issue just to kind of see where you're at. Get a picture of what you got, and then you start looking at what the exceptions are and can you fall in.
Okay, well, thanks a bunch for being here today. This is a question that comes up all the time. So again, you can call us during the week, and we can get you in touch with Mark too. 248-5602. We appreciate you being here today.
All right, thank you very much.
Get some good conservative value. So that's it for this week. We're going to be back next week. I don't know who our guest is. I think Barbara will be back. Feel free to call or email during the week with questions. And like I said, there's good news, there's bad news. We do have an open house today. We almost forgot about it. Dana's going to be out at Coyote Canyon out there on the north side of town. We're running out of time. So call us 248-5602 for directions.